CM Punk didn't walk into locker rooms looking for fights. He walked in assuming everyone already sucked, and then he spent the next decade proving himself right. This isn't about pipe bombs, promos, or what the fans saw. This is the real list. The names Punk clashed with when the cameras were off and the gloves were all the way off. Backstage, he wasn't cutting promos. He was cutting people out. Ego versus ego, philosophy versus paycheck, Punk versus damn near everybody. These aren't gimmick feuds. This is burn it down, never speak again, break the industry level heat. 5 names. No forgiveness. Let's get into it. Colt Cabana wasn't just a friend to Punk. He was the friend. Road trips, shared matches, inside jokes. Punk once said Colt was one of the only people he could actually stand in the business. Then came the microphones, the lawsuits, and a mutual grudge that could fill a law library. The whole thing blew up after Punk did the now infamous 2014 podcast with Cabana, a scorched earth shoot that ended in WWE legal action. Punk said what he wanted. WWE sued them both. And when the dust settled, Punk cut off Cabana cold. Allegedly promised to cover Colt's legal bills, then didn't. That's not locker room heat. That's courtroom betrayal. Cabana fired back with a lawsuit of his own. I'm out $200,000 because I trusted this guy. Punk responded like a guy who was done pretending. He went full shoot in depositions and podcasts. He tried to extort me. We're done. Friendship ended. Forever. What made it brutal was the emotional collateral, not just business. This wasn't 2 guys disagreeing over a finish. This was years of trust detonated over one podcast. The wrestling business didn't break them. Punk did. And the fans? They didn't even realize it had happened until Punk started lobbing legal grenades in interviews like it was casual Monday talk. Punk didn't turn heel. He just turned real. You want to see how bitter the man can get when he thinks someone crossed him? This was Exhibit A, and B and C all filed with the court. There are guys who bury you with a chair, and then there are guys who do it with a tweet, a wink, and a 6-man tag full of inside jokes. The elite were never Punk's enemies in ring. They were worse. Executives who acted like YouTubers. This wasn't a wrestling feud. This was a culture war. And Punk came in swinging like he was hired to demolish the entire company. At All Out 2022, he went nuclear in front of the media, called the elite children, irresponsible, and worse, while Tony Khan sat next to him blinking like a hostage. Then, Punk stood up, walked backstage, and threw the first punch before the Bucks even closed the door. Nick Jackson got hit so hard his shoe probably filed a grievance. Matt got a chair thrown at his face, full-on bar fight rules. Kenny Omega tried to play peacemaker and got choked out like it was backyard MMA. Meanwhile, Ace Steel bit someone like he'd just read the wrong part of How to Handle Conflict. No gimmick, no build. Just a locker room turned parking lot brawl. They were cosplayers with EVP titles, running a billion-dollar company like a Twitch stream. Punk didn't respect their matches, their management, or their idea of business. And the second he smelled weakness, he shut the whole vibe down with his fists. This wasn't about ego, it was about control. And when Punk didn't have it, he started swinging. Some guys put on boots to go to war. Triple H put on a suit and tried to play God. And for CM Punk, that was the problem. He didn't see a locker room leader. He saw a DX cosplay artist who climbed the corporate ladder on burials, branding, and marrying the boss's daughter. Their hate was surgical, deep, old. The kind you don't grow out of, the kind you keep in your ribs like scar tissue. Punk didn't just have issues with Hunter. He saw him as the final boss of fake respect. Backstage in WWE, Triple H was the guy who smiled during your promo, nodded at your match, then sent you to main event with 0 heat and a 10-minute time limit. Punk knew it, called it, said it to his face. In 2011, Punk got white hot. Crowd reactions louder than main events. You'd think a smart exec would run with that. Hunter booked himself into the feud and beat him clean. No rocket strapped, no torch passed. Just ego management disguised as storytelling. Later, when Punk walked out in 2014, he named names and said, I don't need to wrestle Triple H. He needs to wrestle me. And when Hunter offered him a WrestleMania return match, Punk basically laughed in gorilla and walked. Even in 2023, when Punk returned to WWE, the handshake was real. But respect was not. Every interaction since has felt like a ceasefire, not a truce. To Punk, Triple H was never the measuring stick. He was the toll booth operator, gatekeeping the main event and acting like it was destiny. Tony Khan wanted to be Paul Heyman with a trust fund. Instead, he got steamrolled by the one guy who never played pretend. CM Punk didn't just clash with Tony, he exposed him, live, brutal, and without even raising his voice. It started with passive management. Tony let rumors fly, let his EVPs leak locker room gossip, let Punk rot in a backstage swamp of whisper campaigns and elite favoritism, and when Punk finally spoke up, Tony sat next to him, wide-eyed, while Punk torched the company in a press scrum with muffins and murder in his voice. Then came All In 2023. Punk chokes out Jack Perry. Tony panics like someone threw a grenade at his collectible shelf. And what does Punk do? He storms up to the boss, calls him a clown to his face, dares him to fire him, and walks. That wasn't a tantrum. That was a man daring his boss to grow a spine. Tony didn't. He fired Punk weeks later, citing safety, like Punk was a stray dog in catering. Punk left no doubt how he felt about AEW's leadership. It wasn't hate, it was disappointment. Jack Perry was born into this business the same way some kids are born into wealth. Soft hands, no edge, and a last name that did all the lifting. He wasn't built for heat, he wasn't built for impact, he was built for NXT and Daddy's Instagram. But he wanted to be hard, wanted to be real. So he found the dumbest way possible. He asked to use real glass in a fake fight. CM Punk, a man who's broken more bones than Perry's had matches, got and said no. Perry's response? Real glass. Cry me a river. You know what that is? That's not a promo. That's a career-ending Yelp review on your own judgment. Backstage, Punk did what every veteran wanted to do. He choked Perry out in front of God, Tony Khan, and Gorilla's hard cam. Samoa Joe broke it up, but the damage was done. Not to Perry's body, to his stock. This wasn't heat. This was wrestling Darwinism. Punk looked at this ungrateful, overhyped trust fund kid and said, "Nah, you don't belong here." Most guys walk out of a locker room and leave a gap. Punk walks out and leaves a crime scene. He didn't just have enemies, he had exit wounds. His career wasn't built on handshakes or five-star matches. It was built on calling people out while they were still in the room. Punk was the one guy who didn't need to lie to get over. All he had to do was speak. And when he did, you either got quiet or got gone. No backstage whispering, no talk it out. Just fists, lawsuits, and scorched earth where friendships used to be. And that's why his name will always trend. Because he's not the voice of the voiceless anymore. He's the voice of consequences. So whether you loved him, hated him, or had to pull him off your EVP and catering, one thing's for sure, nobody forgets him. Now do the smart thing. Hit that like button like it just tried to use real glass. Subscribe before you get choked out in Gorilla. And comment below with the next ego you want us to dissect with surgical malice. Because this wasn't just another wrestling video. This was a shoot funeral, and we've still got bodies to bury. Thanks for watching.